is not delivering what we want, what would be a path forward?
So I have an article called Next Decade in AI, which people can read later in archive, but it points to four things. One is what we call neurosymbolic AI, which is putting together this tradition of neural networks that's popular now with the old-fashioned AI, trying to find some kind of synthesis between the two. Because they each have some value. The neural networks are good at learning from data, but they're not very good at abstract knowledge. And the old symbolic stuff is good with abstract knowledge, but not learning from data. So that's step one. Step two is we need to have a large database of machine interpretable knowledge. So all of these things kind of fake their way through. The knowledge is never rich enough and abstract enough. So like, that if I have a bottle, you can't see it, but if you saw me bring it up, if I knock it over, there's probably going to be water on the stage.
Right.
Even if you haven't seen this particular bottle in this configuration, you have very general abstract knowledge. And that's crucial, I think, to any real general intelligence. Then we can reason about things. We can make inferences about them. And we have cognitive models of the world. So right now that I mentioned it, that this bottle is here even if you can't see it. And so you're maintaining an internal representation of the stuff that's out there. It might be imperfect, but you have a representation in your head of the things out there in the world and you reason over it. These are foundational ideas in cognitive science, and they're not represented in current AI, and we're seeing the cost of that.
Interesting. Noam, do you think that what Gary's saying is probably the way forward, that some of these ideas about innateness should be incorporated into the way we think about AI systems?
I think those are good ways to proceed, but I also think that if AI wants to proceed, it should take into account what has come to be understood about the basis for acquiring cognitive capacities, which of course do involve fundamental built-in innate properties. We now have some understanding of them, and even some understanding of why they're the kind that evolution would provide. We should recall that back in the early days, the days that I happen to favor myself, AI was basically not distinct from cognitive science. It was just one of the ways of approaching the problems of cognitive science, using achievements, great achievements that had been made both intellectually and technologically with the development of the theory of computability and the physical devices that were able to implement it. This was a great way to advance cognitive science.
Right.
As long as you were part of science, not when you're playing with toys or trying to impress science reporters and journals, but when you're pursuing the methods of science. In the cases that Gary was discussing, taking into account the kind of discoveries of Liz Spelke, René Bayerjean, and others about the innate basis for our ability to maneuver in the world. If you're working on language and thought, which are virtually indistinguishable, then you look at what has been discovered about the innate basis for the acquisition of language on the basis of virtually no evidence, as has been shown by now in experimental work, a lot of it by the late Violet Lightman and others, which show that a child just acquires language the way it walks. It's just sitting there waiting to be triggered by some stimulation, and it all comes out. Well, you want to study introducing such understanding into the methods of AI could lead to carrying forward the earlier programs, which I thought were on the right track, of using the achievements of intellectual achievements, technological achievements as a way of carrying cognitive science forward in its effort to understand what the world is like, in this case, what our minds are like.
Great. Well, we're out of time, but I want to thank Noam Chomsky and Gary Marcus for coming here and debunking a bit of the hype around today's AI and also pointing forward to some ways we might be able to take the technology forward. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening.